Jerusalem smelled of dust, blood, and olive smoke. Passover was near, and the city bulged with pilgrims. Tensions were high, whispers of rebellion moved like wind through the temple courts. The Roman eagle loomed over the city's gates. And somewhere among the crowds, a carpenter-turned-preacher stood at the edge of history. He was supposed to die. It began in the garden, as it always did. Jesus stood beneath the gnarled olive trees of Gethsemane, eyes lifted toward a sky that refused to answer. His disciples slept in uneasy heaps nearby. Only one remained fully awake, Mary of Magdala, her gaze fixed on the man she called teacher. Judas was late. "You should run," Mary whispered. Jesus shook his head. "I was born for this." But something in him, something small and buried, wavered. Then came the sound of boots. Roman and temple guards together. Judas, leading them with eyes that would not meet his master's. But what no gospel would ever record was this: Mary had not come alone. From the shadows emerged 5 men, Essene fighters loyal to James, Jesus' brother. They moved without sound, blades drawn. "Now," Mary said. The guards fell in confusion. Torches clattered. Shouts rose. In the chaos, Jesus hesitated, but James appeared at his side, eyes fierce. "Go." And Jesus ran. For weeks, Jesus moved under cover of night, hidden by shepherds and outlaws, fed by sympathizers from Qumran to Galilee. Rumors spread like wildfire: the Galilean prophet had been crucified. No, that he had vanished into thin air. No, that he walked among the Essenes performing quiet miracles. In truth, he was barely surviving. In a cave near the Dead Sea, Jesus watched the moon rise over the desert and whispered prayers that came out cracked and uncertain. He was a man torn between destiny and doubt. "Why did I run?" he asked James one evening. James was silent for a long time. Then, "Because you still have work to do." Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Caiaphas seethed. The failed arrest had embarrassed the Sanhedrin. Pilate was furious. Roman authority had been undermined. 12 men were executed in the following days, Barabbas among them. And yet, no body. No trial. No crucifixion. Caiaphas spread word that Jesus had been killed. His followers were hunted. Peter went into hiding. John disappeared. But Mary walked openly. She preached not death, but life. She claimed the teacher lived, but more than that, he had chosen not to die. That he had walked away from the path of blood, not in fear, but in rebellion against the machinery of death. The idea was more dangerous than martyrdom. After 6 months in hiding, Jesus returned to Galilee in secret. The towns were quieter now. The revolutionaries had either fled or been crucified. Rome had tightened its grip. In Capernaum, Jesus met quietly with his mother. She wept when she saw him, not because he was alive, but because he looked so old. His hands, once rough with carpentry, trembled. "Are you still the Messiah?" she asked. "I don't know," he said. One spring morning, on the slopes near the Sea of Galilee, Jesus appeared to a crowd of farmers, fishermen, and widows. He wore no crown of thorns. He bore no wounds but the sunburned skin of a man who had walked through deserts. He raised his hand. "You were told I died," he said. "But I tell you this, Rome did not take my life, and neither did fear. I walked away, because the kingdom of God does not come through crosses or swords. It comes through hearts that refuse to hate." Someone in the crowd shouted, "But what of sacrifice? What of justice?" Jesus knelt and picked up a child. "This is justice," he said. "That the child sleeps without fear. That the widow eats. That the stranger is welcomed. Let Rome keep its crosses." Word of Jesus' survival reached Saul of Tarsus months later. He had been campaigning through the synagogues of Syria, stamping out the so-called way of the Nazarene. A crucified Messiah was absurd, but a living one? A fugitive Messiah? Even more dangerous. Saul traveled to Damascus, letters in hand, ready to arrest the blasphemers. But outside the city, under the blaze of a noonday sun, he encountered something unexpected. Not a vision. A man. Jesus stood in the road, cloaked and dusty. He said only, "Why do you fight the breath of God?" And Saul fell silent. In 39 CE, a secret council gathered near Caesarea Philippi. James, Mary, Peter, and Jesus himself, now older, wearier, met to discuss the future of the movement. The debates were fierce. Should Gentiles be admitted without law? Should Jesus be worshipped or followed? Should Rome be resisted or reformed? Peter argued for outreach. Mary demanded equality. James warned of dilution. Jesus listened. Then he spoke. "If you make me into a god, you will kill what I taught. If you make me only a man, you will forget why you listened. So remember this, love without fear. That is the only law." By 44 CE, the net was closing again. Rome had learned that the Galilean prophet lived. Herod Agrippa, eager to curry favor with Caesar, issued a warrant for Jesus' arrest. This time, there was no escape. Jesus was captured near Emmaus. But instead of crucifixion, Agrippa ordered exile. Quietly, he was placed on a ship bound for Alexandria. The crowds never knew. In Alexandria, Jesus lived in obscurity under the name Yeshua ben Yosef. He taught in back rooms and marketplaces, his words passed by mouth and ink. Letters began to appear in scattered communities, simple scrolls signed only the teacher. "Do not seek me in tombs or temples. I am not there. I am in the bread you share. In the enemy you forgive. In the stranger you welcome." These letters formed the backbone of a new gospel, not of sacrifice, but of survival. Not of death, but of dignity. Jesus died quietly in Alexandria, around the year 64 CE. No cross. No crown of thorns. Just a fever, a small room, and a prayer for peace. He was buried by a group of former slaves and merchants. No monument marked the grave. But his teachings had already spread. Not Christianity as we know it, but the path, a network of communities across Judea, Syria, Egypt, and Greece. No temples. No priests. Just circles of people who ate together, wept together, and lived by the words of the teacher. Rome could not crucify what it could not find. A century later, a young scribe in Anj compiled the sayings, parables, and letters of the fugitive Messiah. He called it the Gospel of the Unbroken. It began not with a virgin birth, but with a man in a garden, walking away from death. It told of a world where salvation was not bought with blood, but built with kindness. Where the kingdom of heaven was not a reward, but a responsibility. And it ended with these words. He came not to die, but to live, and to show us how.